Hi, it's Mike again. Today I have something a little different for you. I bought my son an RC tugboat so he would have something to run in the water when I'm flying my RC float plane. I bought it knowing that the electronics would probably need to be replaced. I'm going to tell you about the boat and talk about the upgrades I did. Here's some background information about the boat. It's 20 inches long, 15 inches high without the flag, and 8 inches wide. You can buy the tugboat from Hobby King for about $50 US plus shipping and handling, but I bought mine off of eBay. It comes already assembled. It included the boat, a display stand, a transmitter, an iCAD battery, and a charger. The tugboat is nicely detailed. It's got a red tower and a sprayer on top that rotates manually. There's a crane on the side, a winch on the front and back, rubber tires around the hull, and even a life raft. The cab has windows you can look inside. While the electronics aren't great, the construction of the boat is pretty good, with pieces that screw together to make the modifications easy to make. It has a waterproof switch on the back of the cab to turn the power on and off. LEDs on the top of the cab indicate when it's powered on. The tugboat turns left and right, it moves forwards and backwards, but the throttle is only completely on or off, nothing in between. It also has an interesting pump system. The bottom of the hull has holes in it that let the water come into a reservoir. The pump pulls the water from the reservoir and pushes it up a tube to the sprayer on the top. Let's talk about the new stuff I put in the boat. I'm going to put links in the video notes for all the stuff I used. The stock transmitter uses a 9-volt battery and has a very cheap plastic feel to it. It runs on a 27 MHz frequency with limited range and a chance of frequency conflicts. The receiver and controls for throttle, pump, and steering are integrated into a single circuit board. The antenna is routed through this plastic tube that doubles as a flagpole. I yanked out this entire circuit board and replaced the radio system with a 2.4 GHz 3-channel system. The transmitter includes a lithium-ion battery. This system gives me a very long range and frequency hopping so I can avoid conflicts. The transmitter has a bunch of other nice features. I installed a 25 amp brushless car speed controller. It needs to be brushless to handle a brushless motor. It also has to have a reverse function so I could put the boat in reverse. This ESC is small but powerful. The stock motor is a brushed DC motor. It's not efficient and it doesn't have much power. Brushless is the way to go. I replaced it with an extra brushless motor that I had available from an RC plane. I installed a 20 amp brushed speed control to control the pump. The stock pump motor is a brushed DC motor. It pumps out water in small intervals and reaches about 10 feet. Ours only lasted a few runs before it stopped working. I found a new pump on eBay that works great. It has a wide power input range, so it runs on the 2S LiPo fine. It produces a stream that reaches about twice the stock pump and runs in a continuous stream. The stock battery is a 1000 mAh 9.6 volt NiCad pack. I replaced it with a 6000 mAh 2-cell lithium polymer pack. While the voltage is lower than the NiCad, we were able to run the tugboat for over an hour. I added a Y connector to send power to the 2 speed controllers. I could have gone with a different capacity pack, but this is the one that I took out of my RC truck. I wouldn't go heavier though, because it started to get too top heavy. I used a little LiPo alarm on the pack to tell me when the voltage gets too low. The stock coupler between the motor and the shaft is plastic. Mine got stripped after running with the new motor. I replaced it with a universal coupler made of steel. The stock steering mechanism uses a small geared motor to move the rudder. It has limited movement and turns one way better than the other. It does have a trim you can set, but it's hard to use. I replaced it with a standard servo to increase movement and get better response. I had an extra one lying around from an RC plane. I can use the transmitter to adjust the servo trim if needed. I installed a new control arm with clevises. Here are some of the other materials I used to complete the upgrade. Some new Dean's battery connectors. I put a servo connector on the stock LED wires and just plugged it into the new receiver. I used Amazing Goop to glue in 3 2-ounce fishing weights in the hull bottom to stabilize the boat. Without them, the boat tips side to side very easily. I read it's a good idea to use a special water-resistant marine grease to grease the boat shaft periodically. Some people grease the shaft before every run. My son wanted to embellish it with some Lego figures, so we added a captain and a sailor that were held together with CA. Let's look inside the boat to see how the upgrades were done. Here are the steps to get it apart. Take off the battery hatch by removing one screw and turning the two red locks to the outside. I decided not to replace the screw when putting it back together. Take off the two screws above the lifeboat and remove the lifeboat. I put Velcro on the bottom of the lifeboat so I wouldn't have to remove the screws each time. The green deck removes from the red hull by unscrewing 10 screws around the top of the deck. Remove the two screws on the two red smokestacks and the stacks come off. Remove the white cab from the green deck by removing 4 screws from the perimeter of the deck. Once inside, I remove the stock battery tray, pump, motor, steering mechanism, and speed controller/receiver. I added some Velcro to the top of the reservoir to attach the new battery to. Notice I added the weights in these positions. To remove the pump, you just remove these 2 screws and it slides out. I made this by taking some square dowels, drilling holes in them, and sliding them over the post. I glued a piece of sheet metal on top of each dowel. I then glued a piece of plywood between them and screwed the pump to the plywood. It makes it a lot easier to work on the pump. The motor is attached in a similar manner. The motor also has a universal coupling joint. I did enlarge its holes a little to get it to fit the drive shaft and motor shaft. Make sure to put some thread lock on the grub screws because mine did come out. I also used some amazing goop on the outside of its pin to keep it in place. I dremeled a flat spot on the drive shaft to give the grub screw something to rest on. I added a wheel collar on the drive shaft to help keep the shaft in place. It's important to leave a small gap after the collar. Where the old steering mechanism was, I fit a standard servo right on top of the existing post. I just had to reinforce them with some amazing goop. I cut the steering disc in order to attach a clevis to it. I ran a control arm to the servo. If we look inside the cab, you can see where I attached the motor speed controller, pump speed controller, and receiver with Velcro. I wired the stock switch in place of the motor speed controller switch so that I can still turn the main power on and off from the switch. Since there are 2 speed controllers that both have BECs plugged into the receiver, you have to remove one of the red wires from the servo wire so that you don't have extra power on the receiver. On the receiver, here are the connections. Channel 1, steering. Channel 2, throttle. Channel 3, pump. VCC, I use this to power the LEDs. I connected the LED power wires right into the receiver. The receiver has 5 volts power coming from the ESC. Normally 5 volts would be too much power for an LED, but in the stock setup they are wired in series with a resistor, so I only had to put a male servo terminal on the wire and plugged it into the receiver. The receiver's antenna slides nicely up the existing antenna tube in the cab. Overall, I'm really happy with the upgrades. It was fun making them. This tugboat has a lot of potential and my son loves his new and improved tugboat. So what do you think? Do you have a tugboat? What were some of the upgrades that you've done? What do you like and don't like about the tugboat?
Storing water.
Gentlemen, we have a full scale behind us.
That's as fast as it'll go.
That's as fast as it'll go.
I would go on the side so you actually can see it better.
Go back to door.
Yeah,
How fast
pretty fast.
It's good. Come in shore.
got him in.
Thanks for watching the M Mary 2 channel. Click to subscribe for more exciting RC videos.